So, what does it really take to build a business worth $1 billion? It's the question that basically fuels all of Silicon Valley, right? It's the dream. But the reality? Well, it's pretty staggering. Think about this number for a second. 99.99% of companies will never get there. The path is just littered with traps and failures. It honestly seems impossible.
But what if it's not actually impossible? What if, by looking at the tiny fraction of companies that did succeed, we could start to see a pattern, kind of like a map through this crazy maze?
And that is exactly what we're going to dive into. Think of it like a quest, a gauntlet, really, with 8 specific trials that every single founder has to get through to build a company on that kind of massive scale. You know, the funny thing is, the very first hurdle isn't about funding or product. It's all in your head. Most companies fail to get huge simply because they never plan to. They're out there solving small local problems. If you want to win this game, you have to be planning for massive from day one. Okay, so you're thinking big from the get-go. Awesome. But what's next? Well, let's get into the first phase, which is all about building the actual foundation for this massive enterprise. And here it is, challenge number 1. You cannot waste your time on small fry problems. If you want to build a billion-dollar company, you have to find a problem that is so massive, so widespread, that just solving it unlocks billions in value.
I mean, just look at Uber. They weren't trying to start, a little local car service. They looked at the clunky, inefficient, infuriating global taxi industry and said, yeah, we're going to fix all of that. That is the kind of scale we're talking about. Okay, so you found this massive problem. Great, but that's just step 1. Challenge number 2 is all about your product. And we're not talking about making something just a little bit better. No way. We're talking about creating something that completely rewrites the rules of the category. Tesla is the perfect example, right? Electric cars had been around for ages, but let's be honest, they were kind of seen as glorified golf carts, clunky, slow. Then the Model S comes along and boom, it's gorgeous, it's insanely fast, it's packed with tech. It didn't just make a better EV, it showed everyone what a car should be. And the whole industry has been playing catch-up ever since. So you've got the huge problem, and you've got the game-changing product. You're done, right? Not even close. A lot of founders think that's the finish line, but really, it's just the beginning. Because if you can't actually get that amazing product into millions of hands, it's basically just a cool hobby. And that brings us to challenge number 3.
And nobody does this better than Amazon. I mean, think about it. Their real genius isn't what they sell, it's the incredible engine they built to sell it. Giant warehouses, fleets of vans, a storefront that's basically the front door to the entire internet. They're not really a retailer. They're a logistics and distribution machine that can just keep growing and growing.
All right, so the external stuff is built. The product, the distribution, it's all there. But now the focus has to shift. You have to look inward. It's time to build the internal engine, the machinery that lets you handle that explosive growth without, completely imploding.
Look, as a founder, you can't clone yourself. You just can't be in every meeting making every single call. So, how do you make sure the team is still making the right calls when you're not around? Well, that's challenge number 4. Building a really powerful company culture.
And let's get one thing straight. Culture is not about ping pong tables and free snacks. That's just stuff. Real culture is like the company's invisible operating system. It's what keeps everybody pointing in the same direction, working towards the same goal, especially when the boss isn't looking over their shoulder. Google is just a classic case study here. Their whole culture is designed to make people think big and not be afraid to fail. That famous 20% time where engineers could work on their own projects, that wasn't just some nice perk. It was a strategic decision to bake innovation right into the system. And what did we get out of it? Oh, just little things like Gmail and Google Maps. See, that's when culture becomes your secret weapon. Now, as the company is growing like crazy, that excitement can turn into pure chaos really fast. You've got missed deadlines, things slipping through the cracks. It just gets messy. And if you don't tame that beast, the whole thing can collapse under its own weight.
That's why challenge number 5 is all about operational excellence. The masters of this were really the Japanese companies that rebuilt after World War II, like Sony. They built their entire global reputation on being incredibly efficient and having insanely high quality. For them, every single detail mattered, from the circuit board to the cardboard box it shipped in. They understood a key principle. To be a world-class company, you need world-class systems for everything. So now you've got this beautiful, efficient engine running smoothly. Fantastic. But here's the catch. Your competitors are trying to build one too. So the final stage of this whole quest isn't just about building anymore. It's about defending. It's about building a fortress around everything you've created. And that brings us to challenge number 6, securing a competitive moat. So what's a moat? It's basically a unique advantage that makes it really, really hard for anyone else to compete with you. It's what stops copycats in their tracks and protects all that market share you worked so hard for. Just look at the biggest companies out there. What's Apple's moat? It's the ecosystem, right? Your iPhone talks to your Mac, which talks to your watch. The more stuff you buy, the harder it is to switch. For Google, it's all that data. They have so much of it, their search just gets smarter and smarter. And Amazon, it's that delivery network we talked about. The key here is that these aren't just cool features, they're defenses that actually get stronger the bigger the company gets. But even the best moat can be breached, so challenge number 7 takes your defense to a whole new level. We're talking about building a brand, not just a logo, an iconic brand that's so powerful, it's not even about the product anymore. It's about an idea. This is the master level. It's when a company stops selling a thing and starts selling a feeling. Think about it. Coca-Cola doesn't sell you brown fizzy water. They sell you happiness. And Nike, they're not just selling you shoes and shirts. They are selling you the feeling of victory. That brand becomes a fortress in people's minds, and that is almost impossible for a competitor to attack. And that leads us to the 8th and final challenge, the end game. How do you make sure your company doesn't just hit that billion-dollar mark, but stays at the top, pretty much forever? Simple. You become too big to fail. This is about weaving your company so deeply into the fabric of everyday life that society itself depends on you. It's not about being a big company anymore. It's about being essential infrastructure. Seriously. Imagine if Apple or Microsoft or Visa just vanished overnight. The world would stop. Communication, business, payments, everything would grind to a halt. That's the ultimate position of power. So there you have it. That's the map. 8 incredibly tough challenges that take you from a simple idea all the way to a global institution. Let's just run through it one more time, really quick. You start with a billion-dollar problem. You solve it with a category-defining product, you get it to the world with scalable distribution, then you go internal, you build a powerful culture and nail operational excellence. And finally, you defend it all, a competitive moat, an iconic brand, and the ultimate goal, becoming too big to fail. Look, every single one of these steps is a massive undertaking, no doubt about it. But the path, it's actually pretty clear. So the only real question left is the one that gets this whole crazy journey started in the first place.